Have you ever wondered what it feels like to have your entire world crumble beneath your feet? To wake up one day and realize that everything you've sacrificed for, everything you've believed in with your whole heart, might not be the truth after all? I lived that nightmare. I was willing to die for what I believed. Actually, I desperately wanted to die for it, because that was the only way I could be sure of salvation. But then something happened that turned my understanding of God, faith, and eternity completely upside down. I lost everything: my family, my identity, my very right to exist, and finding something so precious that it makes the loss worthwhile. I need you to stay with me through this journey because what happened to me is still happening to millions of people around the world right now. As you're reading this, someone somewhere is making the same terrifying choice I made, knowing it could cost them their life. Someone is sitting in a small room, hands trembling, whispering a prayer to a God their family doesn't acknowledge, fully aware that discovery means death. Now, before we go any further, I need to be honest with you about something. You'll notice that I won't mention any names in this story. Not mine, not my family's, not the kind people who helped me along the way. This isn't because the story isn't real. It's absolutely real. Every word you're about to read happened to an actual person who is alive today, still serving God, still sharing this testimony despite the risks. But the reason I'm protecting identities is simple and serious. There are people who would harm me or those I love if they knew exactly who I am or where I am. My own brother once promised he would kill me if he ever found me, and he meant it. So I'm asking you to understand that these security measures aren't about hiding the truth, they're about staying alive long enough to keep telling it. The story is real. The transformation is real. The God who saved me is real. And now, let me tell you how it all happened. Before we begin, I want to ask you where are you watching from and say you please drop your location in the comments below. Whether you're in Lagos, London, New York, or a small village somewhere across the globe, we're family. Let's connect, pray for one another, and support each other through this journey of faith. Your comment matters. It reminds us we're not alone. I was born in 1981 in Saudi Arabia, a land where the sun scorches the earth and the call to prayer echoes 5 times daily through every street. As a young girl growing up in that environment, I learned early that my life had one purpose: total submission to Allah. By the time I turned 14, I had memorized half of the Quran. My teachers praised me. My parents beamed with pride. Every verse I recited, every prayer I performed, every fast I endured, I believed these were coins I was collecting for the day I would stand before God and need to purchase my way into paradise. But deep in my heart, a question whispered that I dared not speak aloud: would it ever be enough? The religion I grew up in taught me that Islam was the final truth, the only acceptable path to God. Every other faith was either corrupted or incomplete. Christianity. I learned that Christians worshipped 3 gods and that their Bible had been twisted over centuries until it bore no resemblance to God's original message. I looked down on them, not with hatred, but with pity. I thought they were lost souls stumbling in darkness. But I also learned something else, that dying for Allah was the only guaranteed path to paradise. When the war broke out in Afghanistan in 1979, I was still young, but I listened to the stories of men leaving to fight. I wanted to join them. I wanted to prove my devotion, to erase any doubt about my salvation. My mother stopped me. She told me I was too young, that I had a different path ahead. I obeyed, but reluctantly. Looking back now, I see that was the first time God intervened in my life, though I didn't know it then. Years passed. I enrolled in an Islamic university in Mecca, determined to become a scholar of Sharia law. For a year and a half, I studied with intensity, imagining myself one day as a respected judge, someone who would uphold the divine laws of Islam. But something happened during those months. The fire inside me, the passion for that path, just died. I couldn't explain it. One day I simply knew I couldn't continue. So I left, returned home, and enrolled in engineering instead. After I graduated with my degree, my father surprised me with an offer. Would I like to study abroad in the West, perhaps in Europe or America, and earn a graduate degree? The question shocked me. The West. That place of moral corruption, where Christians had abandoned their faith and society crumbled under the weight of sin. Yet despite everything I believed about the West, I wanted to go. I wanted the prestige, the education, the experience. I convinced myself I could go, learn what I needed, and return untouched. Maybe, I thought, I could even convert some of them to Islam. When the acceptance letter came from the University of Arizona, I was thrilled. I prepared myself for what I thought would be a desert much like home. But when I arrived, everything was different. The landscape, the people, the very air seemed foreign. The cultural shock was real, but what terrified me more was the language. I had studied English for years, but conversational phrases baffled me. When someone asked me what was up, I looked at the sky. When they wanted to pull my leg, I stepped back in confusion. My teacher suggested I join an organization on campus called Friends of the Internationals, a group that paired international students with local families to help them adjust and improve their language skills. What she didn't tell me was that it was a Christian ministry. Within weeks, I was matched with a family. When I met them for the first time, I expected nothing special. But something about them was different. They radiated a warmth I had never experienced before. Their kindness wasn't transactional. They didn't want anything from me. They genuinely cared. When I graduated from my English program, they took a day off work to attend my small ceremony. That gesture stayed with me. Still, I refused to discuss religion with them. I wasn't ready. I told myself I would convert them to Islam someday, but not yet. After 8 months, I transferred to Arizona State University, and I cut all ties with that family. I never called, never wrote. I wanted to move forward, and they represented something I wasn't ready to confront. Over the next 3 years, my perspective on the West began to shift. I met people who didn't call themselves Christians. I met others who went to church only occasionally. I realized that not everyone inherited Christianity the way I had inherited Islam. This confused me. Everything I had been taught about the West, that everyone was born Christian, that they had simply abandoned their corrupted Bible, was falling apart.
But knowing and believing are different things. The moment I left that building, doubts came flooding in. My mind started rationalizing. Maybe it was just emotion. Maybe I imagined the whole thing. Maybe I wanted to be healed so badly that I convinced myself something happened when nothing actually did. The enemy knew exactly where to attack. For 2 weeks, I battled thoughts that tried to steal what God had done. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, fear gripping my chest, wondering if I was crazy for thinking I could be healed. Then my body started showing symptoms. For 4 years, I'd had this infection without any outward signs. Now, suddenly, I was experiencing discomfort and signs that something was active in my system. The enemy was playing dirty, making me question everything. I finally decided I needed proof. Not because God needed to prove himself, but because my faith needed something to stand on. I made an appointment with my doctor for testing. The nurse who took my call was surprised. She told me there was no point in testing because the infection didn't just disappear. It was medically impossible. But something made me insist, and she finally agreed to schedule it. When the results came back, my doctor called me himself instead of having a nurse relay the message. He told me he'd run the test 3 times because he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Every test came back negative, not just improved or managed, but completely gone, as if I'd never had it all. He asked what I'd done, what treatment I'd tried, what medication I'd taken. I told him the truth that I'd been to a church service and believed God healed me. There was silence on the other end of the phone. Then he said something I'll never forget. He told me he'd been practicing medicine for 30 years and had never seen anything like this. He said if this was what faith could do, maybe he needed to reconsider some things. I sat in my car after that phone call and cried harder than I'd cried in 4 years. But these weren't tears of shame or sorrow. They were tears of freedom. God had taken something permanent and made it disappear. He'd given me back my future, my hope, my life. Later, I realized the timing. For years, I'd carried that infection. For as the number of the earth, of creation of the physical realm, God healed me to show that he's not limited by natural laws or medical impossibilities. He's God, and when he decides to move, nothing can stop him. This happened 7 years ago. I'm now 30 years old, married to a man who knows my whole story and loves me anyway, and we have 2 beautiful children. Every time I look at them, I'm reminded that God doesn't just heal our bodies, He redeems our stories. If you're reading this and carrying something you think disqualifies you from God's love or healing, I want you to know you're wrong. God isn't looking at what you've done or what's been done to you. He's looking at your heart. He's waiting for you to let Him in. Maybe you've been hurt by someone you trusted. Maybe you're carrying shame from decisions you made or situations you couldn't control. Maybe you convince yourself that you're too broken for God to fix. I'm here to tell you that's a lie. The same God who healed me is ready to heal you. Not just your body, but your mind, your heart, your spirit. All He needs is your yes. Before I close, I want to ask you to pray for believers around the world who are being persecuted for their faith. Right now, in countries we may never visit, our brothers and sisters are suffering because they refuse to deny Jesus. Some are in prison. Some have lost everything. Some have given their lives. They need our prayers. They need to know they're not forgotten. If you've never given your life to Jesus, or if you walked away and want to come back, I want to lead you in a simple prayer. You can say this out loud or in your heart. Jesus, I believe you're the Son of God. I believe you died for my sins and rose again. I'm sorry for the things I've done wrong. I ask you to forgive me and come into my life. Heal me. Make me new. I give you my past, my present, and my future. Thank you for loving me. In Jesus' name, amen. If you prayed that prayer, welcome to the family. Find a Bible-believing church in your area and tell someone about your decision. Please share this story if it touched you. Comment below and let me know you were here. Subscribe so we can stay connected. And remember, you are loved more than you could ever imagine. God bless you.